Okay, I'll just come out and say it. I love The Rings of Power, Amazon Prime's Lord of the Rings prequel series. Unironically. Now, I say that with the required caveats that every billionaire is a policy failure, and that the demonic corporate ambition to commodify absolutely every aspect of human existence while grinding the global proletariat into paste really needs to be checked. But those are just the background radiation of life under late-stage capitalism. They should be the assumed caveats for every bit of media analysis. Within that context, though, I think The Rings of Power is pretty amazing. It is such a gift to Tolkien fans, providing us with visuals and touchstones from the Legendarium that most of us thought we would never see on screen. Valinor and the Two Trees, the War of Wrath, the sinking of Beleriand, a blink-and-you'll-miss-it cameo by Morgoth himself. And that's all just in episode 1, in like the first 10 minutes. In the following episodes, we are treated to even more awesome stuff. Numenor in its sumptuous glory days, Khazad-dûm at its glorious height, the wandering time of the hobbits, intricate, visually evocative, and culturally suggestive costumes and set designs, characters on the road breaking out into poetry and song, and even this nice touch in the title sequence theme by Howard Shore when dark grains creep in and the tune drops to minor, evoking Melkor's discordance in the music of the Ainur. And the characters! So many from the deep lore make appearances in both minor and major roles. Galadriel, in her headstrong, ambitious, prideful early centuries after rejecting the pardon of the Valar. Elrond, just beginning his career as a compassionate diplomatic leader who will shape the history of Middle-earth for millennia to come. King Durin, Queen Regent Tarmiriel, young Isildur and his father Elendil, future Banner, Celebrimbor, the great elven smith, High King Gil-galad, Ar-Pharazôn. Honestly, if you had told 12-year-old Bob of the old ways reading his dad's dog-eared copy of the Silmarillion under the bedcovers with a flashlight that one day the most expensive television show ever produced would bring this world and these characters to vibrant life, well, that would have given me at least one thing to look forward to growing up for. And the new characters are all pretty cool, too. I especially enjoy the camaraderie between Isildur and his two friends, the new characters Valandil and Ontamo, that breathes new life into this iconic figure from Tolkien's history. Nori, Brandyfoot, and the Stranger call to mind Gandalf and Frodo, as they're meant to, except with the mentor-student role reversed. And that's pretty cool. The forbidden romance between the elf Arondir and the human woman Bronwyn evokes Aragorn and Arwen, who of course evoked Beren and Luthien. Arondir was the real breakout among the new characters for me. I am a sucker for all things archery and all things elven, and this moment right here proves that this dude is one of the elfiest elves who ever elfed. Now, I know what you're thinking. Or rather, I think I know what you're expecting. You are, after all, watching a YouTube video about the Rings of Power, and that genre of fan content comes with a certain trepidation. Or maybe a certain elation, depending on how you feel about the kinds of Rings of Power videos that dominate the algorithm. You are waiting for the heel turn, the ironic reversal, looking for the subtle hints that I cannot possibly mean what I am saying. You know how these kinds of videos go. But this is not one of those videos. Everything I just said about the Rings of Power was completely earnest. I am a lifelong Tolkien fan, and I adore the Rings of Power. Now, it's not that I'm unaware of the deviations from Middle-earth lore that the show makes, it's just that I don't care all that much about them, because at the end of the day, Rings of Power feels like a Tolkien story to me. My emotional investment in Tolkien's world and characters was never rooted in the minutiae of the lore or the intricacy of the languages he crafted, impressive as all that is. No, for me, the Legendarium's appeal is fundamentally rooted in its thematic elements, in a spiritual worldview that is at once both vaguely Christian and vaguely animistic, where a deep reverence for life and the natural world is grounded in a framework of virtue ethics that draws sharp distinctions between good and evil. I am not in love with what Tolkien's work says. I'm in love with what it means, which is also why I love the Rings of Power. Because, for all of its meanderings from strict lore fidelity, Rings of Power engages with Tolkien's themes at nearly every level of its construction, and not a single one of the show's detractors that I've seen here on YouTube, who fancy themselves stalwart men of the West, standing fast against woke hordes, assaulting the legendarium, has ever seemed to notice this. And that really makes me question how well they understand Tolkien's work, let alone how well they understand what Rings of Power is doing. But this is not a dunk video. I will do plenty of those in the future, probably. Maybe. Maybe not. To be honest, I now basically ignore any video that pops up in my mentions that's taking shots at the show. I'm not going to waste mental energy on content that craps on something I enjoy. I have my own criticisms of the Rings of Power, and they are not deal breakers for me. I would much rather make content that explores some of the ways that Rings of Power engages with Tolkien's themes, and in the process, explain a little bit about why I love the show so much. I know that I'm not alone in my enthusiasm for the show, so maybe this project will be a little safe harbor for others who feel the same way. So, here's what to expect in the next few weeks. The video you're watching now is meant to be a prelude of sorts. Rings of Power is expected to return to our screens later this year, and I plan to be there to do things like reviews and fan theories and breakdowns. But in the meantime, I am revisiting Season 1, and I will be laying a content foundation on this channel where fans of the show can gather for a supportive community atmosphere. As part of that foundation, I'm releasing 3 videos, a trilogy, if you will, that will directly challenge the most common negative narratives about the show found on YouTube. The first video, releasing in early May, examines the racially diverse casting of the Rings of Power and demonstrates that it actually makes perfect sense within the context of Tolkien's legendarium, which means that everyone complaining about it on YouTube is either consciously lying to you or has accepted lies that they've been told by others about Tolkien's work. The second video, currently being scripted, takes a deep dive into some of the Christian themes found in the show. Like Tolkien's original work, The Rings of Power explores and expresses religious and spiritual ideas rooted in Christianity, but typically in less than straightforward ways that require someone to engage with the text at more than a superficial level. Which means that a lot of YouTube commenters missed them completely, since they approached the show in bad faith from the beginning. Expect this video towards the middle of May. The third and final video, currently being outlined, explores the complicated and contradictory bits of Galadriel's backstory in Tolkien's legendarium, and will show you how the version of her we see in Rings of Power is actually deeply rooted in Tolkien's work. Expect that video towards the end of May. Now, as this channel goes forward, I will, of course, make other kinds of content that more directly challenges the reactionary, anti-fandom community. Some of those videos have already gone up here. In addition, I will make other essay-style videos about nerd culture topics, especially around the Netflix Greta Gerwig Chronicles of Narnia movies and James Gunn's multi-platform DC Universe as those projects develop. As I laid out in my Missions and Values video, this will all be done in accordance with the principles of faithful fandom, joyful diversity, and radical welcome. So, tune in here for pro Rings of Power content starting in May. And until next time, remember that what's best in life is to crush your enemies, see them driven before you, and engage in discourse with the women. Shanti, Salam, Shalom.